Hello, everyone, and welcome to the third day of our Shield Global Online Safety Conference. I'm very happy to have Joy Emedom here, whose wonderful initiative, Mama Cyber Shield, sorry, I've had the honor of actually taking part in partially. And I love the way you leverage mothers. So I will hand over to you and looking forward to what you have to share. Thank you.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. How are we doing? And thank you, Angeline and team, for allowing us to be part of this wonderful idea of a conference that focuses on online safety, with preference to children. I won't go around talking about my background. There's a profile page. There's a speaker profile page which you can take some time to see what we're doing. However, when I made some reposts and got people to be aware of this, I had people ask me, so are you saying this is only peculiar to mothers? And I said, no, if you're a father, if you're a brother, if you're an uncle, please join. However, the mother reference was just to call out that there are certain instincts we have as mothers that we can use and leverage on, and be very helpful and useful in ensuring that we have the right online safety for our kids. So it wasn't to segregate, right? We're very inclusive. So if you're not a female here on the call and you joined, please feel free to, amplify and use whatever you get out of here today. The whole goal is that we want to create a safe environment in this new online world, and we want to identify real life skills. If you've encountered me personally, you will know that I am a big fan for simplicity. I've done cybersecurity and tech for 15 years now. In fact, I was wondering today, and I said, I think maybe when I'm 20 years working, I should do something. Maybe I should celebrate myself more at 20 years, because I think I've spent some time in this industry. And I don't like complex. I don't like when people make things seem so bogus, and then that's when people get hard. In designing security solutions, one of the things I've seen why people don't like to do security is because they think it's hard, they think it's complex. So the essence for relating this to your every Mother Day skill is to let you know that don't worry about the technology, don't worry about the platform. That simple day-to-day skill that you have today is what is sufficient enough to create the first line of defense. Most times we put parents as the last line of defense. And the new world that we are today, this cyber world, this online world, parents are actually the first line of defense. Let's play with some numbers so that this is not a case of that we're assuming. I think it was 3 weeks ago, I did a post on my LinkedIn and I called it the God forbid, God forbid syndrome. I'm from Africa, precisely Nigeria, and we have this thing we always do when you hear bad information or you hear something, we do like this. Now, watch me, I'm going to do it. And if you're Nigerian, let me see you make in the chat, if you can relate to it. And if you're not Nigerian, that's fine. Just tell me if you can relate to it. So when you hear something bad happens to somebody in Nigeria, we'll raise our finger over our head and do, God forbid. God forbid it can't be me, right? This cannot be my portion. It's not my portion. So if you've had that kind of experience, I want to see your reaction in the chat. If you know that kind of reaction that is being done when people hear a bad story and they don't want to relate with it, let me know in the chat. And then when I have time to look at the chat, we'll giggle about it. All right. But the God forbid, it's not me. The numbers are there. So who are the people in these numbers? There are lots of statistics that would wow you when it comes to children, the use of the online platform and the exposure. But just to focus on social media, which is the major place we're finding ourselves. And these are summary numbers because we looked at so many statistics, but you find the numbers play around this range, right? Between 67 to 80% of children between the age of 3, yes, 3 to 17 use social media. And based off this, another average of about 40% of these children are under 13. However, the major social media platforms state that the ages are 13. How many of you know that Instagram is supposed to be from 13? TikTok is supposed to be from 13. I think Snapchat from 13, right? And the rest of them. But you can see the numbers saying 40% of the number of children that are online are below 13. So you can see I have these big questions. So, parents, do we really fully understand these platforms, right? And that question is for you. How many of you believe that parents, inclusive of yourself, are fully equipped with enough information to guide their children's safety online? Let me see in the chat what you think, about this. And the truth is, in my engagement with parents, especially with our work at Mama Cyber Shield, which is a platform where we work with stay-at-home moms, and we're now evolving. We now have career moms join us. Most parents are not uncommitted. It's not because parents don't want to know. It's they just don't know what to do. They're not equipped, right? They're simply not equipped. So let me share a story that will get you to understand when we talk about online child safety, and why it's not about the platform, why it's going to be about the skills that we're going to just highlight here. My son, we stay in an apartment kind of building, and my son has a couple of friends who go to his school who come around to play. So they will come and knock on the door, and he will go out to play with them. And my son is at the stage where we're trying to teach him emotional regulations. He's between the age of, I'm going to give you an age range, between the age of 8 and 11. That's his age range. And so it's at that age where, he's discovering himself. He can talk about, he wants to express himself. So he's at that age where there's conflict now, and he's a boy. So boys, the conflict. So we've noticed the tendency of when there's a disagreement, he probably will come home immediately. And again, because of cultural background, where because of our culture and our personality and image, when he has certain conflicts, we don't want it to get heated to an extent where it becomes a case of where we're dealing with authority. So the worst case scenario we tell him is, if you can't handle your emotions, just come back home. On this particular day, he was playing, and I was at home, and I knew he was playing, and then I came out to do stuff, and I saw that he was back, and I was like, oh, that was fast. What happened? As a mom, my instincts kicked in. I knew that it was a conflict, right? So I said, you've had a conflict with your friends, and he was mumbling. So I opened the door because I could still hear his friends outside. And I said, oh, how are you? Called their names. And I said, you guys have disagreed again, right? I said, so what's the issue? And then one of them answered, he didn't want to do TikTok with us. Okay, my son doesn't have a phone. So TikTok. Then I asked them, are your parents aware that you make TikTok videos? They were silent. They didn't say anything. And I said, okay. I called my son's name. He's not allowed to do TikTok videos, so I think that's why he didn't want to do it with you. But then I turned to my son in front of them because I didn't want, and I said, have you done TikTok videos with them before? And he said, yes, mommy, one. I'm like, okay. And then I turned to them and I reiterate that, he's not allowed to do TikTok videos. So sorry, that's why he can't do it with you. And I said, take care, and I closed the door and I came in. Sometimes children, right, enter these digital spaces even before we know. Many of us have those situations where our children are already online before we know. So you see the God forbid factor. Many times we're saying God forbid, but our children form that statistics. And because we don't know that our children are already in the digital spaces, we're saying God forbid because we think it's a confident, honest response, not knowing that the statistics are not lying. So what did I do? I'm an African Nigerian mom. The typical response that you would have expected from me is to shout, guys. But in this journey, we're learning. So I stayed calm. I didn't speak. Went back to work, finished. I found, and then I came back later in the evening and sat down with my son, right? And we had that conversation. I turned that experience into an educational moment because at that point, it had nothing to do with the app. He doesn't have a phone. He knows, and we've talked about that you can't have a phone now. We've said several times on why we don't think he needs a phone. He has the TV, he has, a Nintendo. If he needs to check anything on the phone, maybe any research or anything, he can use my phone, his dad's phone, or his elder sister's phone. So he knows. So it wasn't a case of him wanting a phone. It was a case of a young boy being playing out with his friends, and the friends who came from an environment where it was okay to do something said it, and he didn't think it through or process it through because he felt it's not my phone, so I'm not doing something bad. It's their phone, but he was in a platform. Are you seeing it? And then a platform they had done the video, uploaded the video. We didn't know as parents. And so when he shared that, right, what did we do? It made us to have this conversation. And we now started talking about the importance and the risk. And I won't go into all of that, on why we didn't think it was safe for him to be on, that platform unsupervised without his parents knowing, right? Let me ask you, have any of you had this kind of experience where you found out that your child was on any of this online platform before you found out they had already started being on this platform? If you had such experience, let's know, and how did you handle it? But this is a typical case of where many parents fall into, and that's why many parents are unsure about these statistics because they want to boldly say or live in the bubble that they think that my child doesn't have a phone, my child doesn't have a device, so it's possible. But your children have friends who are, and so they're online and they're on this platform and they form into the statistics. Another example that will get you, and the reason why I'm showing this is so that you will know that these are not vague examples, real world impact. I don't know if how many of you spend time to Google. I won't spend time on this on two. There's so many cyber incidents, but these two always get to me every time I have to use it. The incident about Molly Russell and the one about Jordan, they're all on the internet, so that's why it was okay for me to put out the stories here. Jordan's case, I've had so many similar cases of parents who have had this kind of experience, but because of the awareness and education that we're creating, those parents have been able to salvage the situation. When you look at these stories, it's not a case of that the parents were bad, or it's not a case of bad parenting. It was just pure knowledge gap. And these gaps exist, which is why we must work together to close it, right? Most times, parents of victims like this would come out to now start creating awareness. And in cybersecurity, we will call that, being reactive. While a reactive response is also a good type of response, we want to empower parents to be cyber ready. We want to let parents understand that we're in a digital world and digital parenting has become very important. So while we're moving quickly with time, take notes of these exercises to do, right? At what age do you think parents in your community start digital safety conversations? And when we say community, it doesn't have to be tech. It could be you, your sister, your brother. That's a family enclosure. At what age do you think, right? You have started talking about digital conversation. I'll tell you where we're going with this because it will shock you to know, right, that the conversation around digital safety doesn't exist in family conversations because people don't know what to do, right? So write down these questions because those are things you need to start bringing up. When you have, for those who are religious people, you're in religious groups. For those who are in like-minded groups, do you talk about digital safety? Do you talk about digital safety conversations, right? And at what age do children in your community actually start using the internet independently? You want to ask yourself these questions, right? Take them note because it will help you when you have understood the skills that we're going to enhance and amplify here to know how to match it back here. There's often a gap that exists between parents that start the conversation and when children are already navigating digital spaces. Right. So I gave an example. I told you a story. My son doesn't have devices, but he's already started interacting with platforms. Somebody has even done a video. He has agreed to do a video to be put on TikTok because he didn't see it as anything. That's him engaging with the digital space. And we would as parents be saying, oh, my son is not yet online. Meanwhile, he's online. He's in the digital space. So this has become a very major reason why in the hierarchy of cyber defense, you will typically see what the regulators are. So we have the Online Child Safety Act. We have so many child protection acts. We would always see that. And while those regulations are good, you will see that most times what it is that it's slow, it's very rigid and structural, and it takes years to implement. And then sitting on top of government regulations, we have platform policies. So today, for example, roadblock has been banned in some countries, and we hear other countries want to take effect. We hear countries coming up with several, platform restrictions, and that's good. It gives us another level of defense. But it's still reactive, right? It's not a proactive move because what will happen is that your child is already using these platforms and you probably have to start asking or how to know how to use it. Now, the other level is that we have left it for our schools and educators. Because our children spend about 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 hours at school. So we trust that the school knows what to do. Some of us have left it, let the school handle it. They deal with these children about 7 hours a day. Good also, the schools are trying to the best of their ability. But guess what? You, the parent, you're with your child 24/7. Yes or no? Um, you have access to these devices, you have conversations, your child lives with you. That is why it's important that we sweep the fleet and make parents the first line of defense, because we are the ones who understand. We buy these devices for the kids. We know that we have gotten them exposed to the internet. We are with them all the time, and we can see and read and pay attention to these behaviors that can have us raise the right conversations, right? So parents need to be the first layer of defense, and it's in our generation that this is going to change, right? Um, our parents raised us not knowing about devices. That's one thing we need to know. Most of us, our parents did not have devices, so they didn't have anything to teach us, right? So today, there are certain things I do easily at home because I learned it from my mom, and I knew that, okay, once I get married, I need to do these things. My mom didn't have to use smartphones when I was the age of my children today. So how would she know how to detect or teach me how to know if my child is being cyberbullied, or if my child is being withdrawn, or if my child has started going to illicit sites? She doesn't have that to teach me, except maybe she's actively seeking for that knowledge today, right? But I have a child who is within an age range and is already getting exposed. I need to know about online child safety. So how many of parents have really learned about child safety? Many of us didn't learn it from our parents, right? So we're going to be the first generation who would learn about it, transfer to our kids, and then as our kids grow and raise their own kids, you will see that, things begin to get better. And that's why it seems like as if we're in a situation that looks like a mess, if I have to use that choice of words. And so things will get better as we peak. Now, this is just a rough part explaining how the transition of parents becoming the first line of defense is important. And I know many of you are curious to say, oh, haven't we gotten to where the skills is? Just don't worry. Give me 2 more slides and I'll be with you. So don't be in a hurry. We're almost there. But one, as a cyber ready parent, one of the things you are doing is that you have learned the risk, and you will know how to have this conversation. So once you understand what your skill is, right, you will now learn how to have these conversations, and these conversations will ripple to your children, and your children will ripple to your other children, and these digital habits will cascade down. And then because you have learned it, you will now be able to translate it. So today, in 2026, we had the International Women's Day. Team say give to gain. This is one way we can give to gain, one way we can scale to communities. Once you know it and you start talking about it, then it can cascade down to other parents and cascade down to the communities. And so this is a more scalable safety technology than when we worry about the actual technology itself. So here we are. What are the everyday parenting skill that you have that we can match to what cybersecurity expects? One, as a parent, it's never hard for you to spot when your child is unwell. I'm deliberately trying not to use the word mothers so that if we have people in the room who are not mothers, they don't feel like, oh, this is peculiar. But like I said, because of the community where I'm pushing this on, we focused on mothers because majority of the time mothers are the ones left to the children. One skill we have on point is we look at our kids and we know that something is wrong. My son could wake up and I say, "Oh, your eyes are in," and then the next thing he says, "Yeah, mommy, I kind of feel unwell." You see that skill, ability to be able to detect, is a great skill that we need in cybersecurity. In the corporate world, your ability to be able to spot something, the guys in SOC, your ability to be able to see that this signal, it's funny, this account has logged in more than, 3 times from 3 different geographic locations. It's not possible for a human being to be in this location and this location at the same time. Something is wrong and it will trigger an alert, right? The ability to be able to detect something is a core skill in cybersecurity. Now bring it to online child safety. It would help you to be able to recognize behavioral changes, right? So because you now understand that your child is in a digital world, the moment you come to that realization and acceptance that I'm raising children that have by default two lives, they're physical and they're virtual. digital. While you can spot your child's unwell behavior physical, know that that same skill is the same skill you're supposed to be able to use to quickly spot your child's behavior when it comes to online. We tell my son that you don't use devices during the week. So he has this thing he does. There are certain days in the week I have to go to work, physical office, and so the dad stays with them. He has a way he gets around his daddy, and he knows it. And so those days, I know when I'm leaving the house that I probably am going to come back and find out that he's used screen. And so um, he would I will say to him, I'm going to work today. You won't see me when you come back home from school. And he will start to smile. And I will know. So what do I do? Some days I tell, the father, I'm like, I don't know how you're going to do it, but if you could please not give him screen today. And I could say, because I noticed that, there's been a pattern. He's been so engrossed, right? Getting, I'll be able to guide the father. And the father will be like, okay. Or I'll be like, if you give them screen, can you make sure that they shut down exactly by 4? Because I've noticed that by 4, when the younger sister comes back from school, if she continues with screen, she struggles to go to bed. Now, this is me not even going into what harm is. This is just from a behavioral thing. I've been able to see that, well, when the younger one does screen at a certain time, she struggles. But because he's much older, he can do screen longer and be able to fall asleep. Or I notice a pattern of, he does screen consistently XYZ time, and he begins to lose interest in things that are not digital because he has kind of grown a pattern. So the behavioral changes, right? If you build it up now, even before harm happens, you'll be able to detect, because you can say, I know that each time my child is watching YouTube, they have this excitement. And I know that when my child is playing games, they have this excitement. You can spot it out, right? So it's the same skill. Don't worry yourself and say, I don't understand the kind of game my child is playing, but is he playing a game? The same way you can spot your child is unwell is the same way. Setting house rules. This one is in every organization today. In cybersecurity, we have rules. We say password policy, and we say, oh, you can't do this. And even as parents, you have rules. For example, if you go out, come back by 6. So we tell my son, if you're outside playing, once it's 6, you come back, right? We've had his friends several times say to us, why does Nathan have to come back home by 6? And we say, because that's the rule. We don't want him staying out late, right? So it's the same thing. The same way you can create physical rules that provide certain level of safety. And the reason why we say that is not necessarily because we think anything. It just helps us process our brain, because as parents, we're busy doing so many things. I don't want to start worrying that my child is out late at a particular time. The level of exposure of harm he has during the day, you agree, is different from the exposure of harm a child has at night. So it's the same thing. So on devices, create rules that you have conversational with them. So you can use screen beyond this time, or you use screen beyond that. When you use screen, these are the kind of things that you're allowed to do. Once you have these as conversations, they now are the ones who will be the gatekeepers for you. Know your child's friend. The same thing you do physically today. You know your child's friends. I could spot that my son with his friends had had a disagreement. Now, we were aware that those his friends had mobile devices, right? Now, let me tell you the irony and funny thing. We had talked about he can't allow them take his pictures. He knew. We had talked, but you see, at that moment they asked him to do TikTok, the first one that he agreed to, right? He didn't think it was anything bad, but on this second day, he felt it was wrong, right? Why? Because we had constantly been educating him. So now he was in a place where he felt, no, I shouldn't do TikTok. But he had done it previously, which is why you see the importance of constant conversation and utilizing the skills we have with our kids to create a safe place. So you know your child's friend. If I asked how many of you today know your children's digital friends, what would be your response? If you know the friends that your kids keep online, can you drop it in the chat? You'll be amazed if we took a poll. We'll have a very less percentage. Many parents have no clue of who their children's friends are online. They assume that the friends that they know about their children physical are the same friends online. And most of the time, that's not true, right? But again, like I said, remember where we're coming from. Our parents didn't have to worry about who our friends virtual because we didn't have virtual worlds. Our parents knew who our friends physical and taught us that. So we've done the same thing. We know or we inquire or we ask for who our friends, our children's friends on physical, but we don't ask. So talk to your child. Try to know who are their friends online. Guess what? That's how you will know that they have AI friends. That's how you know that they have, because there are certain things they will tell you about those friends that you will now have to question extra. We had engaged my son in trying to know one of his friends physically. And because of asking several questions, where do they live? Which block of the apartment do they stay? Who are their parents? Made my son go back to ask. And that was how he found out that one of his friends, the parent or the dad, had a record that was not nice, or probably was even still, at jail. And it just created that curiosity for us. Okay, maybe that explains why, oh, this child, could stay, because the child would stay out late till 8 and all of that. But if we didn't probe my son, he wouldn't probe and he won't bring that information back to us, right? The same thing with road safety. You would teach your children how to cross. You would tell them, look left, look right, right? You would tell them when they go to the park, when they go to school, they should behave like they should be aware of strangers. How many of you know that they are actually strangers online? The thing is, many parents think that the people that their children talk to online, they know them. So they just assume the physical and the virtual world are two different places. Many of your kids are talking to strangers online, and you don't know because you haven't educated them that those people online are strangers. Your kids see them as friends, right? Define what stranger online means so that your kids can understand, so you can leverage those skills. And then one of the easiest thing we do, your kids come back from school and you say, "How was your day?" One of the most simplest thing we do, "How are you today?" "Oh, how was school? How was this?" Do you know that that's an important skill to check? That's what we call monitoring and supervision and observation. The guys in the SOC, when they come and they power the screen and they're looking at the dashboard, what they're actually saying to that screen is, how are you? How many alerts have you detected? What are you seeing that is not normal? That's what they're doing. That's the same skill. Because when you ask your children, how are you? They'll say, oh, I had a bad day. Oh, I had a good day. Oh, my friend this. And then you can say, which friend? Oh, my virtual friend or my friend online, because you're like, oh, I don't know this, your friend. Say, oh, I haven't met her physically. I haven't met him physically. Oh, this person. When you ask the same way you ask that skill, it will open up conversations. If you're familiar with how you can use this everyday parenting skill in the digital world, and if this was not new for you, let me see your chat, let me see you drop a chat, and then we'll quickly move. What makes you a cyber ready parent? Just two more slides and we're done. You must understand the platforms your children use before they get there. And when we say understand the platforms, we're not talking about all the complexity. What type of platforms are your children in tune to? Do you find your children excited talking about Snapchat? Then that's the platform you should spend time to on, right? So that you can begin to understand what are the risks, right? Open digital conversations at home. How was your world online today? How was your gaming session today? If your children went for swimming classes or went for music classes or went for one of the physical classes, you would ask them how it was. Ask them about the virtual world. How was gaming today? Oh, what YouTube videos did you watch today? What did you learn online today? There's this thing me and my son decided to carve out around screen. So we call it educational purposes and entertainment purposes. So when he wants certain screen time, he says, Mommy, I want it for educational purposes. I want it. So even when he's playing games, sometimes he'll come and say, Mommy, I'm playing the Pokemon game. But guess what? It's an educational, and I'll be like, how? You say, like, okay, this particular game is teaching me how to cook and how to run a restaurant. And you've told me to begin to process my. He begins to share those conversations I've taught him. Or you've told me that I have to begin to think of, how am I going to make money? I only know how to spend money. How am I going to make money? So I'm learning how to run a restaurant now. And then
I,
I get curious and I
yeah,
check and I see that it's actually teaching him how to run a restaurant. So have this conversation. Then don't forget to set the same boundaries you have physically. Teach your children how to think around these risks, not just what to avoid. Build awareness with other parents, right? So that we can expand this opportunity. Now, one last thing before you go. Ask yourself what platform worries most people in your community? What's the hardest digital conversations parents struggle to have with their children? And what will it take for one parent in your community to become a local safety champion? These are some of the things we throw up in our community that gets us to be aware and taking us back to, to hear say that to be a cyber ready parent, right? This is where the work is. If you didn't take anything, I'll take this five notes out on the things you need to do to start conversation starters to help you become a cyber ready parent. Remember,
Th-
technology evolves faster than regulation. Platforms evolve faster than policy. But one thing will remain constant, your influence as a parent in your child's life. If we want
Thank you.
safer digital spaces for our children, we must first build ourselves as cyber-ready parents. Thank you very much. My name remains Joy Emedom, and
Thank
I
you
hope you
very
have something to take
much.
away with you.
Joy, always a joy to have you. Thank you very much. So, unfortunately, we have to close. We're out of time, but really appreciate it. Talk to you soon.
Yeah.
Bye.